Hi everybody, it's Christina from Pretty Distressed. In today's video, I'm going to take this girly frilly dresser and give it a more moody makeover. I'm going to be doing some textured black paint and a transfer. So if you want to see this furniture flip, just keep watching. So this is the piece I'll be making over today. This is really girly and pink and gold, and it used to be in my daughter's room, but I gave her that silk dresser that I recently redid. So this is going to get a makeover today. We're going to completely change the look of it. Today's video is sponsored by Redesign with Prima, and I'm going to be using one of their decor transfers later in this video for this piece. I'm going to start by removing all this hardware. I like this hardware, so I'm going to keep it, but it's not going to work for this piece. But I did buy new hardware when I originally redid this piece for the second time. This is now the third time I'm redoing this piece. So I've removed all that hardware, and now I'm going to sand the paint off using my Surf Prep sander. I've got my pad saver, and then I'm going to use an 80 grit screen to get this paint off. This took me a while to sand because I had previously painted this piece before, so it has anywhere from 4 to 6 coats of paint where those gold stripes are. So it took a long time to get all that paint off. So I took a little break at some point in between sanding to do some structural work, and I'm removing these little side plates because I want everything to be really clean lines. So I'm moving these decorative plates, and I was going to add a new base like you guys have seen me do with primed board from the hardware store, but lumber is so expensive right now. I wanted to try something different. So I'm going to use my jigsaw to cut off these scallops. I used my level to draw a straight edge, so I kind of had a guide of where to go. And then I'm using my drill just to put 2 holes in the corners so that I can get my jig in there to make some nice clean lines. And then with my jig, I'm going to do my best to follow that straight line. So everything is remaining structurally intact, and I'm just going to clean off these curves. Once I got the front cut off, I flipped it over on its sides and cut off those scallops as well. And then I grabbed my sander just to level and smooth everything out. It's definitely not perfect, but I actually really love the way that it turned out, and it's a lot easier than recreating a whole new base. The last time I did new hardware on this piece, my top drawer was super crooked, so I knew I wanted to fix that because it's always bothered me. So I'm going to fill up all the holes on the top drawer, and then I'm going to fill in 1 hole on each of the other drawers because I want to do knobs versus a pull. This quickwood epoxy is one of my favorites for filling holes, and it dries really quickly within an hour and is ready to sand. So I came back and sanded everything down smooth, and I finally sanded the rest of the piece and got all of that paint off. When I finally got this thing sanded down, I learned that the sides were particle board and that the drawers were MDF. So this thing is not real wood, so I'm going to need to use a primer before I paint today. And I'm going to be using shellac bin, which is a very strong odor. So I'm going to switch out my mask to put my vapor filters on. And here is my bin primer. I found the last can at Lowe's. It was a miracle. And I'm going to be applying it with a 3/8 inch microfiber roller. And you just want to make sure that this stuff is really mixed up well. It is really runny and thin, so I like putting it on with a roller because it doesn't drip and run as much. When you run into spots that you can't get into with a roller, I just use a chip brush and push some primer in there and then go over it with a roller. You typically see me use this primer to block stain, but we don't have to worry about that because this is fake wood. What this is actually going to do is help my paint adhere without soaking into that MDF or particle board and making it swell. It's going to be airtight so that my paint won't seep into my piece and ruin it, and it's also going to block odors. Another great thing about this primer is how quickly it dries. It's ready to top coat in 45 minutes, so I'm just taking a Surf Prep Rad Pad, the very fine red kind, and I'm just rubbing this over to get rid of any imperfections. I'm going to be putting a black transfer on these drawers, and I really want that to pop, so I am going to be creating a custom beige color for these drawers. I'm going to mix 2 jolie colors, and I wanted to show you these Sure Can lids. These are like my new favorite thing for when you have these quart tins. It's really great for when you're mixing colors like this, or if you know you're not going to use the whole quart. It keeps your paint so fresh and so nice, no rusting, and it's really a lot easier to pour into your container and clean up. So my paint container has little measurements on it, so I'm just doing 1 part Farmhouse Beige and 1 part Uptown Ecru for my custom color, and I'm mixing 4 ounces of paint. I'm going for a smooth finish on these drawers, so I am going to add just a little bit of water and mix my color up really well before I apply it. I'm going for a smooth finish on these drawers, so I'm grabbing my synthetic Zebra Palm Pro and my mister to keep everything nice and smooth. When I'm going for a smooth look, I keep my brush strokes in the same direction, get the paint on, make sure that it's sliding across. If it sticks at all, I add a little bit of water to my paint or to my brush, and then I always do 1 long smooth stroke when I'm done. I painted the bottom 3 drawers in this style, and the top drawer I'm gonna match the frame. So when I was done with this paint, I just found these cool lids that they actually sell that goes with these containers too. So that makes it really easy to store my paint in between coats. So for the base and the frame, I want a big contrast, so I'm gonna paint that all black. This is Jolie's Noir, which is one of my favorite blacks. And look, it's had a lid on it, and see how clean the outside is? It's amazing. I'm going to add just a little bit of water to this paint. I'm not going for a smooth finish on this. I'm going to do a classic basic finish that has just a little bit of texture to it. And I'm going to put it on with a natural bristle brush. This is the large Jolie signature brush. It's going to help me cover this area really quickly. I really love using a style like this that has a little bit of texture. I'm not going crazy with the texture, but I am painting in every direction so that it's going to look different from the drawers. Now, in a perfect world, I would have tinted this primer to be a gray or a darker gray because I would have to do less coats of this black paint on top of here. Unfortunately, it's really hard to get one of those big box stores to tint bin, even though it says on the can it's tintable. I'm currently trying to find a local hardware store that will tint bin for me. So that's just a tip. If you're using with a dark color, you can tint bin to kind of match your color more, and you're going to have to do less coats. But in this instance, I couldn't find anybody to tint my bin. So I'm going to end up doing 3 coats of black on here. Yes, I know that is a lot, but I had to do it to get the coverage. And like I mentioned, I'm painting my top drawer to match the base. The good news is that this color works really well with the white primer, so I only need to do 1 more coat on these drawers, so I'm going to add that just the way I put on my first coat. The first coat on the base looks kind of crazy over that white primer, so I'm going to go ahead and put on my second coat just the way I did the first. So here's that coverage after the second coat. I can still see some of that white coming through, so I'm gonna go ahead and add that third coat. Please, big box stores, learn how to tint bin. Okay, now it's time to have some fun. I'm grabbing my decor transfer from Redesign with Prima. This is the Folk 1 transfer. You guys might remember that I used the Folk 2 back on a previous project, and I love working with these transfers because I'm not a super artistic person, and it helps me add just like a wow factor. My style is pretty neutral and plain, so doing something like this, picking a transfer, really pushes me out of my comfort zone, helps me be more creative, and it's just always a good outlet. So I kind of planned out where I want my stencil, and now I'm going to pull back that protective paper and tape this on, and I'm going to cut off the excess that I have for my other drawers just to make it easier. And then I'm going to take my little transfer stick and I'm going to rub that all over the transfer and gently peel it back from the paper. The transfer is broken up among 3 sheets, but when you place them all together, it's one continuous pattern. So when I'm going to my second sheet, I just line it up and it looks like one continuous piece. Once I get my transfer on, I just softly rub my finger over it to make sure every area is stuck down. And then I'm going to take another rad pad. This is a fine one, and I'm just going to kind of clean up my little edges where I might have gone over a little bit. And then I'm going to take a little artist brush and a little bit of my paint and just touch up those areas as well. Before I start sealing my piece, I'm going to go ahead and add my new hardware holes to the top drawer. I'm going to be sealing the black portion with black wax, so I'm going to grab my lint-free rags, some gloves, and I'm going to grab some shop towels as well. You guys may have seen me do this technique before. This is my favorite technique for doing a black paint. I love putting black wax over it because it just gives a deep black matte finish, like even deeper than the paint, and it's just the only way I like to seal black. I think I'm totally breaking the rules because you are usually supposed to put clear on first. That's what everybody says, but I have done this technique several times and I really like it. So I use that lint-free rag to apply my wax, and I just kind of go in every direction, back and forth and in circles just to get it on really well and rub it in. And then I'll come back with that shop towel and I'll remove any excess. And when I'm using the shop towel, I like to go in one direction to kind of make everything look smooth and cohesive and to get rid of any streak marks. I'm going to use the Jolie varnish. This is the low luster version, and a zebra fan brush to seal the drawers. When you're sealing a transfer, you just want to make sure what you're using is water-based, so it doesn't matter if you're using a liquid top coat like this, or you can use a wax as long as they're water-based. I really like this top coat. I first used it on a table I did recently. It goes on white, but it dries matte and clear, no yellowing, and the brush strokes really level out, especially with this fan brush, which is one of my favorites for applying top coats. It takes 4 hours in between coats, so I did a second coat after this dried for 4 hours. I let everything dry overnight, and now I'm going to add my new hardware. I went with this basic black knob for the transfer drawers because I didn't want to deter from the beauty of them. And then I had these more industrial pulls in my arsenal from Amazon, and I like the different texture that they bring, and I wanted to make these stand out a little bit from the black more than they were. So I grabbed my gilding wax and I'm just going to lightly dust this on here just to bump up that contrast between the dark paint and the hardware. And I grabbed a paper towel just to cover up my drawer because I didn't want to accidentally bump into it and get some gold on that black, because that would be hard to get off. After I was done gilding, I just grabbed a shop towel and gave these a light buff. So I'm finished. Just to remind you, here is what I started off with, and here is the piece now. What a dramatic difference. I love the way this turned out. I think it has a real boho feel to it with the different textures of the paint and the pattern of the transfer and the mixed metals of the hardware. I love how clean the lines look now that I removed all that detailing and scalloping. This one was a lot of fun and definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone. Thank you for joining me for today's video. Make sure you check out some of my other projects and videos before you leave. I will be back next week with another furniture flip. Thanks for being here, you guys, and I will see you next time.